Luke Stone, man. You're here. I'm glad you're here, man. I'm glad I met you, too, by the way.
You too. Thanks for having me.
You were from Massachusetts.
Yes.
How'd you get into meteorology?
It was just a topic that always interested me growing up. Living, on the ocean, I saw my fair share of strong tropical or subtropical storms. Of course, as every meteorologist does, I have my real introduction to weather story, which was, a strong storm when I was maybe 7 or 8, coming into the coast, and it caused some really huge waves at the beach. I lived maybe a mile from the beach, and so this is the beach I go to all the time. And we went down there, and my dad took us down, and the roads are flooded, so we can only get so close to the beach. But even from that vantage point, we could see the waves crashing over this island that we would walk out to on a sandbar and play around. It's not an island, that's has people living on it or anything. It's just a small island, but still, it's like, 40, 50 feet elevation maybe on it, and waves are crashing over it. And that was just pretty insane to see as a little kid, and that kind of sparked the initial interest. And, once I started snowboarding Powder more often, I just wanted to learn as much as I could so I could be where the best Powder was. And then it kind of just went from there.
When did you start snowboarding?
Well, I started skiing when I was 4 or 5, New England, New Hampshire, Cannon Mountain. My dad would take us. Even, as kids in middle school, he would take us out of school to go chase storms.
Sick.
So we have my father to blame for this sickness that I have of chasing powder. So he would take us, when we were kids. So I was skiing, and then, maybe around 13 or 14, I started snowboarding. So it's been...
Why'd you make the switch?
When you're 12 or 13, it looked cool and more fun. But one of the motivating factors was definitely the boots.
Yeah.
Didn't like walking around in ski boots as a kid.
These ski boots feel awesome, says no one ever.
Yeah, I wonder if they're better now. Maybe they're not as heavy, but they still look pretty bad.
No, Avery hates his ski boots.
No, I don't. I got Dale boots now.
Yeah, that's why you complain about them every fucking time.
Even when we were like in middle school, there was this old ski resort adjacent to Cannon Mountain called Meteorologist. It was open in the 70s and 80s, I think, and it closed down in the 80s. And so the 90s, when we were skiing Cannon, the fun thing to do on Powder days was to ski off the side of Cannon, hike up this hill, and then ski down the old closed mountain. So we were hiking for Powder in middle school, and I think the boots were just pissing me off back then, and I wanted to get in something more comfortable.
Today's episode of Pillowtalk is brought to you by Powder Addicts. That's my company. We sell all kinds of cool stuff for skiers and snowboarders, like this sweater. It says POW right in the kisser. Get it? And this fanny pack. Let's see what's inside. It's a blanket. A soft one, too. And it's got a map of the ski resort on it. That's my favorite run right there. Where have I seen this before? Head to powderaddicts.com/pillowtalk for our latest coupon for our listeners. Yeah. You ever go back? You ever go back to skiing?
Probably not. I would like to try it because the equipment's so much better and so different. And I wonder if maybe it would be a little easier on my knee, which gives me some troubles. But I'd also open myself up to maybe more or different knee injuries like ACL stuff, whereas snowboarding is usually not too high of a risk for those type of injuries.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think with your knee, for sure, stick to snowboarding.
Yeah. But, it's my back knee, my back leg, that's the bad one, so it gets all the pressure. This season was the last 3 seasons have been a battle.
Yeah. Is there anything you can do to like?
I got a brace this fall that has really, really helped to reduce the pain, but I really need a total knee replacement, and it's just a matter of how long can I delay it.
Dude, those knees are pretty sweet. My dad's got one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He likes it?
He loves it.
How old is he when he got it?
Oh, like, you know what? Actually, it's my mom who got the knee. My dad's got the hip.
Mm.
The hip is actually not bad.
Yeah, hips are, I think, in some ways easier or
Way
better.
easier.
Yeah.
But knees, it's like a big deal.
How's your mom doing?
We golfed all day today, so she's pretty good. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it does feel like just get it over with, man. Also, you know, but I don't know. Do you think it would improve or just be lateral?
I think it would probably improve the pain. At the start of the season, before I had the brace, I went out touring a couple times, and I was ready to get the knee replacement in October because it was so painful. And then I got the brace, which helped a lot. And so now I'm, not sure how soon to get it.
Yeah.
Technology is always improving. So the longer you wait, maybe the better the technology will be. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, whether I get it now or in 5 years, I'm going to need to, have it revised or fixed in 20 or so years anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be able to wait long enough so that it will last me the rest of my life.
Mm.
So it's like maybe I should just do it. And the recovery's not too bad. It's, 6 months or so before you can start doing activities.
Yeah.
And I had meniscus surgeries last year and the year before. So in May of 22 and May of 23, I had arthroscopic surgery where they cleaned up my knee. So the last 2 springs, I was out for 6 to 8 weeks or so.
Yeah, man. My wife's had like 4 knee surgeries. They're the worst, dude.
Yes.
They suck so bad.
Yeah. I mean, it helped, but it's just addressing one of many problems.
Yeah.
But this season was better than the last 2. It was less painful. The meniscus pain and problems are harder to, decrease to a bearable level than the arthritis, which is what the brace helped with. And so most of the season was not too bad.
So you got arthritis too?
Yeah. Those and it's all related. It's just like wearing down, breaking down of what's the stuff inside the knee. Too much sports as a kid and too much snowboarding and everything.
Yeah. So when did you come out to Utah?
2015, and I was starting to snowboard more and snowboard and powder more, and just spent a lot of time mountain biking too. And Massachusetts was just too small of a place, and the mountains were just too small. I wanted to go out where the mountains were bigger and snow was better, deeper. And so 2015 I moved out. And
I mean, what part of Massachusetts?
Like north of Boston on the coast. I was kind of there, for 30 years, my whole life up until that point. Bounced around in different towns in that area, in and out of Boston for a while, went to college there and stuff. But yeah, it's like 30 minutes.
How was the culture shock?
It wasn't too bad. It was a welcome change of pace. It was any type of shock was enjoyable. It's less chaos, less traffic, less busy, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I mean, Salt Lake is just a weird place, but if you're okay with it, then you're okay with it. It's not like it's not a city really. It's not Boston, you know, and I don't know if it ever will be.
No, it's very unique. I'm sure there aren't any other places quite like Salt Lake, but yeah, it works for me. I've enjoyed it.
And so, how about where'd you go to meteorology school?
So that was just, not that long ago. I was doing another career, working 9 to 5 normal jobs, and, learning about weather for myself and for my own purposes to make my snowboarding experiences and any outdoor activity experiences better. But then in 2018, I started looking into, programs for weather a little bit. And the biggest thing was that I somehow found out that I could go to grad school for atmospheric sciences without having a specific undergraduate degree in atmospheric sciences.
Oh.
I was always thinking, there's no way I can do that because I didn't study it as an undergraduate, a long time ago. But I learned that, it's not a strict requirement. And if I just took the individual courses that were required for grad school, then I could attempt to go. So then I just started taking courses while I was working, all the prereqs. And then in 2019, I started at the University of Utah in the atmospheric sciences program.
Was it hard it feels like after 30, it's anything hard on your brain. I couldn't go back to school.
Yeah, it was the first semester and the first year were incredibly difficult. I graduated undergrad in 2007, and I took some math and science courses, but not too many. So basically, after being out of college for more than 10 years, I started taking advanced calculus courses and some weather courses at the U, and those were hard. And then once I was in the program as a first year, the math and the physics in those core courses were really hard. I honestly almost dropped out because it was just so hard. Most people in the program had versions of some of these classes as undergrads.
Yeah.
So it's material they've seen before and, at a less complicated level, but still. But it was really hard. I just studied all day, every day during that year, and had some very smart and helpful people in my program, including other students that helped me and stuck it out and made it through that first semester and first year. And then after that, it was not so bad.
Yeah. Well, and do you use that stuff still?
No.
Yeah.
That's, maybe 5% of it gets used sometimes. It's just, you have to learn how it's done and all the basics and all the physics behind it. But on a day-to-day basis, the vast majority of meteorologists certainly aren't using that, core first year type stuff.
What is in the what's in your tool belt for forecasting?
Well, what do you mean exactly?
If you're not using math and science, is it just simply going to the weather.gov and because there's all kinds of nerdy stuff you can get into. You can get webhooks and raw data and stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of the general concepts are used, about how the atmosphere works. So a lot of that stuff is used every day and, helps me forecast better. It's more just the complicated calculus and physics equations that's behind all of the weather and the models that aren't used every day. In terms of forecasting, like all of the forecasters out there, I rely on the weather models and the data that's available. But, concepts that are learned in school are applicable every day.
Yeah. So is it how I've never forecasted anything. How far away am I from being able to forecast a powder chase storm? How difficult is it?
To do it at a basic level, I don't think it's that difficult. There is a handful of things you could look at, and the tools are out there to do that. That could give you, a very basic approach to forecasting and chasing powder. And if you learned those, then those would be helpful to someone trying to do that on their own.
How much time does it take you to do a forecast for, like, I don't know, because you forecast for Europe and Whistler.
Washington. Yeah.
I mean, two completely different climates, right?
And South America.
So how difficult is that?
Those are hard, because one of the things about, forecasting specific areas that helps people distinguish themselves to someone that doesn't know the area is familiarity with, the local geography, topography, how different weather systems impact that area, and, getting the experience of paying attention to a certain area consistently and seeing how storms impact the area, temperatures, winds, overall patterns. Learning those for an area help a lot. So, having to suddenly forecast Europe and South America, which are two regions that I didn't previously pay too much attention to, was challenging. But, I spent a lot of time trying to learn as much as I could about those areas, any information I could find to understand how the, winter storms impact those areas. When it comes to Washington, I've been paying close attention to Washington for, my own powder purposes for as long as I've lived out here. So, 9 years of watching Washington closely. So that area didn't, require much additional learning from what I already knew. But, South America and Europe, definitely.
So is there something that, like, what if you could build, like, the best forecasting app from the ground up? Like, what it would include topography, and, like, what would it include if you could just wave a magic wand, I guess?
Yeah, if I don't think we're currently there yet, but if we could look at a long history of how all different types of storms impacted a certain area, and have a machine learn that and develop the patterns that lead to certain types of storms, winds, snow, for all areas. And, one of the factors that comes into play is, the scale. There's only so small of a scale that, a weather model can handle. And so a lot of times it's more broad, and those, when it's done that way, it doesn't necessarily pick up on the smaller scale things, which can have a big impact. So, if I was able to develop an app that would be able to go down to the smallest scale and know what these small scale differences would do to what's happening in the weather, that would be pretty cool.
And, like, there's thousands of weather stations, but you could probably do more, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. There's the more data, the better. And, that's an important factor to consider when forecasting and looking at weather models. For example, there's a lot less data points over the ocean compared to over the land in the western U.S. So when storms are out in the ocean in the Pacific, before they're over land, there's a certain amount of uncertainty at that point, because the data that the models are using is much less compared to once the storm is over land. And there's so many more weather stations, so much more data that the model's using to put out the forecast. So
you're like, there's a storm out in the Pacific, but you don't know anything about it.
Yeah, the models are pretty amazing at this point in time. So they certainly do a good job, but there's just a level of, accuracy that is, gained once a storm's over land and has more data, and you have more confidence in some of the parts of a storm, like the storm track, just because there's a lot more data. I mean, there's certainly there's buoys and lots of buoys with data, but it's just not nearly as abundant as it is over land.
Well, I want to ask you about powder buoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no?
No.
Hard no, or like is there any relevance to it?
Hard no.
Big love to powder buoy, but
yes. Hard no from a scientific perspective. Hard yes from a stoke perspective.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any predictive value from it. I think it would be wrong just as often as it is right in terms of predicting storms. But it's not, of course, what happens in the Pacific Ocean is relevant to what's going to happen in the United States, some time period later. Mm-hmm. So it's not that there's zero connection by any means. There is a connection, but in terms of predictive value and the science behind it, I don't think it's reliable.
Because it's just a surf buoy.
Yeah. And again, like obviously most of the storms come from the Pacific that impact the Western U.S., not all of them, but most of them, the vast majority. So, there is a connection. It's just, maybe there needs to be research done in order to further develop that connection, in order to make it a valuable predictive tool.
Yeah.
Because, just as often as, a buoy pop results in a storm, a couple weeks later, it doesn't result in a storm. So there's I don't think there's a, predictive value there.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch though, I guess.
Yeah. First time I heard about it sounded really cool. I'm like, I hope that's true. But It did seem kind of far-fetched too, the more you think about it. Because Hawaii's 2,000 miles away.
Yeah.
That's the other side of the country.
Exactly. There's so many other things that can happen and do happen in between that can impact whether what happens there will determine what happens here.
Yeah.
So again, and if there's a tool that's wrong just as often as it's right, from my perspective, that has no, predictive value from a scientific perspective.
Yeah. So what if we just dropped thousands of buoys out into the Pacific?
That would probably improve the weather model's accuracy at longer lead times.
But no one's doing that because...
I don't know the answer to that, but maybe money is a factor, or maybe I don't know how hard it is to maintain the weather stations and the weather data that the buoys provide.
Yeah.
So it's certainly a lot harder and more time consuming than it is to, drive over to X mountain where there's a weather station and, service it or fix something.
Yeah. That's what my friend does. He just goes to weather stations and I don't know what he has to do. Just fuck with them somehow, but just make sure they're working and stuff.
Yeah.
And
they need to be maintained.
So, okay. But how much is a weather station? How much is a powder buoy?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Because there's money, dude. Money's not the problem.
Yes.
I feel like we get all the ski resorts in the West Coast. How much? 1% of their revenue. Let's take that. 0.5% of their revenue could maintain these things. I don't know. Maybe.
Because
it'd be useful for them, right?
Yes and no. I don't know if all resorts necessarily want to have more weather stations. Why doesn't every resort have a snow stake?
Because they got shit snow and they don't want anyone to know.
Yeah, maybe. And yeah, operating a ski resort is challenging.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they'd want to divert funds to that. And the other issue is that, most of the weather stations are, funded by the government. So the government isn't sitting there saying, hey, let's put so much money into having so many more weather stations.
Yeah.
It's, the weather models, are related to the government. The weather stations are government. So,
well, and there's shortcomings with those a little bit. Because, for instance, like they don't necessarily, I don't know if there's a way to do this, but they don't measure snow quality, do they?
Not directly, but indirectly, yeah. A lot of the weather stations measure the water content in addition to the amount of snow. So that certainly gives you an idea of how dense the snow is. And a lot of weather stations have wind sensors that, can give you some information about the snow quality. So while the weather stations themselves are just giving you the raw data, how much snow, how much water was in the snow, what the winds were, and not, directly telling you what the snow quality would be like. There's certainly ways to, get an idea of what the snow quality is like from that.
But then that's where you come in, because, I mean, there's very few people that care about the snow quality, like the water content. We care because we want it to be good rideable snow.
Yeah.
And so that's where you come in, right? But you're talking about AI earlier, because there's so much data. You can't look at every single weather station across the whole. I mean, how do you do that?
I spend an enormous amount of time looking at weather stations during the winter. Like I have a bookmarks folder with hundreds of weather stations, and depending on where I'm forecasting or where I'm thinking about going for a storm, I'm looking at lots of weather stations leading up to the storm, day before the storm, while the storm's going on, once the storm's over, to get all of that information. And that's one of the most important tools that I have. And developing and gathering this massive list of weather stations is very important. And times when I find new weather stations in areas that maybe I didn't think had them, I'm very excited about that. It's like I'm always trying to amass more weather stations so I can get that information. It's crucial, outside of forecasting. That's the most important information in terms of, being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Someone can predict a huge storm and there can be several feet of snow. And if that's all you have and you're not looking at weather stations, you might miss that. It's incredibly dense, or it was incredibly windy, or it was 50 degrees 2 days before 12 inches of really low density snow fell, and the sharp temperature drop caused the surface to freeze right before the storm. So, maybe there's a foot of blow or powder, but you're sinking right down to a hard crust. That's information that weather stations are crucial for.
Yeah. So that's the AI. That's where AI can come in. Because, I mean, do you have like web hooks or like alerts? Do they have alerts like that? Or you just have to check it manually?
I just check it manually. I don't think that exists. And I'm not sure how alerts would necessarily work with that. It's just I'm manually going into my browser, opening up every weather station. And like I said, I'm just constantly checking, like every hour. A lot of times weather stations update hourly. So I'm checking all the stations every hour. Some of them update even more frequently than that, and constantly checking those.
I mean, you can solve that with data somehow. Someone can build an app. I know that they have webhook. You know what a webhook is?
No.
So it's just like, you ever heard of Zapier?
I don't think so.
Okay, we might be able to set something up, but I'm almost positive that like, and I mean, I'm talking my ass. I've never looked at a weather station, but I know that like a lot of times, like one of the government websites, like the geo, like water reporting, like reservoir water reporting. I've looked at that before, and you can set it up like you can just ask for information on a periodic basis. It's called a post, or it's called a GET. So anyway, there's like a webhook is just like, it's a URL that exists out there somewhere, and all it is like a JSON file or some sort of like data file that just gets posted there periodically, and then you can go get it, or it can alert you whenever there's data posted to it, and then it goes and grabs the data, and then once you have it, then you can do something with it.
Maybe there's a more organized, more efficient way to do what I'm doing. You know, if there was where it could all be listed in the same place and more easily accessed, that would potentially be beneficial. But I don't know how like alerts would necessarily help, or, you know, because I'm just looking at so many times, you know, leading up to a storm that, you know, again, maybe if they were all in one place, and somehow maybe, you know, because there's a lot of different types of weather stations. They don't have the same information. They vary quite a bit. Some have more than others. So if there was a way to get them all in one place and have it simplified, so you know, I didn't have to go into every individual station's, you know, URL to check it.
I mean, I know there's a way to do it. I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah,
there's got to be a way.
And is there anyone else besides me that wants it?
There's a ton of people.
Down to that level, I mean, probably not. People might want some of the like local ones, but I don't know. I feel like I don't know how many people are looking at the weather station data like I am. People probably just want to know how much did it snow. Yeah. And a lot of times the resort will tell you that in the morning anyway.
Underreported.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe that doesn't exist because the need isn't big enough. That's just my need and a few other people.
You are kind of a freak that way. I mean,
obsessed. Yeah. You know,
but you get it right a lot of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. There's certainly some misses, but yeah, combining real-time information gathering with, you know, forecasting, it's a pretty good track record.
I mean, you've gotten it wrong. What's the time you got it wrong?
Just you know, a week or so ago, I didn't think the winds were going to be that strong for this May snowstorm. And they were way stronger than I thought. I did not anticipate Snowbird keeping the tram closed both of the storm days. You know, I knew they were going to be strong and would have some impact on the snow quality and could have some minor impacts on lifts, but I did not see a 2-day tram closure.
Yeah, and that gets into the other part of storm chasing is like knowing the resort and how they operate. Because that data is hard to get too. That data is impossible. There's no weather station there's no data on like we opened this gate at this time and everything like that. No. They don't have that data.
That data is only gained through experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, enough experience at a given resort to know their operations.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I've been running around North America for 10 years, figuring it out at all the resorts I want to go to and lots of other resorts that I don't go to as much. So that helps a lot too.
Because I'm building an app actually to help at least with that.
Yeah.
It's a very simple app, but it's like, what was the storm? What happened in the last couple of days? And what lifts closed and when did they open? Because you can get a decent picture of that if you just like because like you look at weather, and I know you look at this too, but I don't look at weather stations, but I look at what's open and closed a lot. And I look at that almost all the time when there's a storm. And I know Solitude better now, and I know Brighton almost never closes anything. I mean, they're pretty good at that. And then the Snowbird is the weirdest one. It's like you just said, like, Snowbird is hard to predict. Well, it's not hard to predict, but if you don't know anything about it, then
it is hard to predict. There's some order of things, but not necessarily all the time. And the more dangerous terrain a resort has, the more difficult it is to predict, and the more difficult it is for the resort to get that terrain open after a storm.
Yeah.
And then, there's a lot of variables when it comes to storms in terms of how much did it snow, what the winds were, what the temperatures were, that, might change the operational plan.
Yeah.
For example, I don't know anything about what most resorts do in terms of opening on sunny days.
Yeah.
When no storms happen. Like if you ask me, hey, what about X resort on a Sunday in February when it's been sunny for a week and it's sunny? I'm like, I have no idea what they do on those days. I literally no idea. I just don't pay attention to that.
Well, that would be nice to know. But I remember because when we went to Taos, that's what we experienced. Because they also have the problem of, like, they don't have the patrol force. They don't have enough patrollers to open certain parts. Like, they're just not going to open that one today because they can't patrol it. Yeah, they don't have enough people.
I mean, that's generally true everywhere.
Yeah.
If every resort had a lot more patrol, then they would be able to get more stuff, maybe all of the stuff open on a given deep storm day. I mean, there's some mountains with certain terrain areas where it's so steep or dangerous that they would probably insist on letting it settle and, wait a day or so. But, if every resort had unlimited patrol, resorts would get more stuff open faster.
Yeah.
And, obviously some resorts are more short-handed than others.
Yeah, I mean, I know, hot tip about Solitude, they'll never open Evergreen Peak on the storm day. They always wait till the next day, pretty much.
Yes, but that wasn't the case many years ago. My first year in Utah, I had a Solitude and Brighton pass. And a lot of the time, on most of the big storm days, they would get Evergreen open. Honeycomb was more in that category of never going to open on a storm day at that time. But, my first year here, we were on Evergreen most storm days unless it was a really big one. Yeah. So it can change too.
Well, I know that the new manager of Solitude is not very popular. A lot of problems with her. She's like, I mean, inside information, like, people do not like her. Apparently, she was the one that kind of screwed up. What's the one in freaking Vermont? The big popular one. I can't remember.
Sugar Bush?
I think she was from Sugar Bush or the other one.
I think it was Sugar Bush.
And she kind of like screwed that one up and then left. And then now she's at Solitude.
Yeah, it's, I certainly don't envy the people who have to make those decisions.
I know.
But I too, many times feel like more stuff should be open, and I'm disappointed it's not. But I'm glad it's not my job to organize it all.
Yeah, and because it's like, okay, I mean, because you're starting a course, right? Mm-hmm. You want to start this like powder. What's it called? Do you have a name for it yet?
I don't have the name finalized, but it'll be something along the lines of, how to chase powder.
Yeah. Pretty genius.
No one's ever heard that before.
Did you come up with that one all by yourself?
You got a better idea?
Nope, that's the best. I mean, there's no other one. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully I can, help people do what I do.
Yeah.
And not need me to help them.
Yeah.
Because people want to do it on their own.
Yeah. Also, do you want to be the guy that, do you like to ride with other people, or do you like to ride by yourself?
No, by myself.
Yeah, I got that sense when I met up with you.
Well, I wouldn't say it's. I take that back. It's not that I want to ride by myself. It's that I want to, have a plan of attack for the day.
Yeah.
And it's very specific and targeted. And I don't want to, depart from that plan. And if riding with other people causes departures from that plan, that's not good.
Right.
So if someone is, ready to stick with me and do it all, then I like riding with people. And I do that sometimes,
Yeah.
Ride depends on the resort, the day. But, there's people at Snowbird that I find myself on the same runs with lots of times.
Yeah.
And, it's certainly not a matter of, keeping up with me as a snowboarder.
Yeah.
I'm not fantastic. I'm fine. But it's more just the plan to attack the mountain in an organized way to get to the right spots at the right time, do whatever's necessary to get to those spots, and hike or wait or, stuff like that.
Today's episode of Pillow Talk is brought to you by Powder Addicts. Powder Addicts sells all kinds of cool shit for skiers and snowboarders like you. Like this sweater. It says Stoke Patrol, but it looks like a ski patrol sweater. And this fanny pack. Let's see what's inside. Well, it's a onesie. The cool ski pattern on it. Wouldn't that be cozy on Christmas morning? There's even one for the Groms. Oh, it's upside down, but that's adorable still. Head to powderaddicts.com/pillowtalk for a very special coupon just for our listeners. First of all, I'm so blessed that we went, and I'm really happy that I went to Taos. That was my first powder chase, and that was an awesome day. And Taos is really cool.
It is.
And
Love Taos.
It was just cool to get to do that with you. But you were like, I'm only riding this gate, bro. I don't know what you're doing. You can wait with me if you want, but this is the only thing I want. And you freaking waited all day. How long did you wait? 2.5 hours?
Yeah. That's not an unusual amount of time for me to wait for something. But yeah, a couple hours.
Yeah, this is the unglamorous stuff that you don't post on Instagram of waiting around. But I wish I could show you the clip because I don't know what's going on with Instagram right now. But no, there's no email. Don't, Avery, don't. It's just that. Okay, just that. It's still down.
They're gonna have to blur that on the cameras.
I want to show that
that run.
I want to show that run from Taos because Ski Patrol thought you were crazy for waiting around that long.
They do everywhere. They always do, and they're always asking, "What are you doing?" All the time. Even the other day at Snowbird, we hiked up from the top of Peruvian to the top of Mineral. And it's 70, 80 mile an hour gusts. And 3 or 4 of us are just sitting there. And this patroller comes up. He's like, what are you guys doing? Why are you here right now?
Because we're crazy.
Yeah. And not only were we waiting, but it's just the conditions that day.
Yeah.
It was so gnarly. It was so bad and cold and windy. And we're just sitting there, 3 or 4 of us waiting.
Did they open anything?
No, we had heard that Mineral was going to open, so we were hanging out, and then, that patroller confirmed to us that it wasn't, so we went on our way, but that's what we were waiting for.
Who's got the nicest patrollers, and who's got the worst patrollers? Don't talk shit on patrollers.
Yeah, I don't, being totally honest, I don't think there is a worst. I don't think anyone, I don't have a shit list of resort patrols, but Snowbird is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because it's a local mountain, and Crystal is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Taos is good. Palisades is great. The bigger resorts, the resorts with the big time terrain, they tend to have really good patrollers and patrol directors and systems.
I got the sense that Taos just hadn't like dealt with a storm like that for.
Yeah, I would say they don't get the frequency of large storms like a place like Snowbird does, and they also have a lot less people on the mountain, so there's less of a need to get stuff open fast.
Here it is. I was blissfully hiking. I had left 5 minutes before this, after waiting an hour and a half. But dude, my board was too short for this day. I was getting stuck everywhere. I don't think I would have had a good run on this because it was like too fucking deep. Is your board like really big or something? Or
no. I mean, it's probably, I'm 5'11"-ish, and my board's like a 161. So it's a normal size. I mean, a little big, but not. It's wide.
Yeah,
and that's something I'm careful about. And once this run flattened out at the bottom, which it did big time, I got completely stuck.
Yeah.
If the rest of this video is shown, I'm going straight, and then I just come to a complete stop without doing anything because it got flat and it was, waist deep.
And I had the first one there.
I was the first one there. I had to take my board off and post hole through, waist to chest deep powder for not a long distance, maybe 30, 40 feet to get to the skier track. But when it's that deep,
10 feet, it feels like 100 feet.
Yeah.
No, that happened to me a ton and I went, and you went home after this.
I took a couple more runs.
Okay.
I did. I think I took 2 more.
At the same place? What was this called again? This was
Lorelei Trees.
Lorelei, yeah.
Yeah. I took a couple more in the area. I took one more in that area, like a little farther over, and then I just randomly met up with a guy who offered to show me his favorite run on the mountain.
Sick.
Which was pretty good. I mean, it had a fair amount of tracks already.
Yeah. But
But next time, before this stuff opens, I will go to that spot that he showed me. Because it was a spot I didn't know about. But yeah, it's a very interesting topic, what I do to get the footage that appears in my videos.
I saw the behind the scenes with all this, and it's not that glamorous.
And that's not unusual.
Yeah.
That's how it is. I mean, I don't want to be on something that's not steep.
Yeah.
There's less enjoyment for me for that. For better or worse, I have the forecasting ability, the weather station obsession, and the desire to get this type of snow on this type of terrain enough that that's all I ride.
Yeah.
Like all season long. And so once I do that so much, I'm used to riding 1, 2, 3 feet of snow on really steep pitches. Like I don't have to ride on stuff that's not steep. And so I'm so used to riding terrain like that. If it's, not a very, if it's a blue run, not a steep pitch, it's just not that fun.
Yeah.
At this point.
I know. Look at this question. Does chasing POW make it impossible to enjoy groomers?
100%. It not only, yes to that question, but, very related to what we were just talking about. It makes it impossible to enjoy powder on not steep terrain. It makes it impossible to enjoy heavy snow, even on steep terrain. And it's not necessarily a good thing that I'm at that point in life where I have, the flexibility, the ability to get those type of conditions, 95% of the time.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, a lot of waiting.
Yeah, and I remember feeling like, I don't regret missing that. At the time I was pissed because I said that when I walked away. I'm like, I know they're going to open the gate as soon as I walk away, and they fucking did. But I got an amazing run. And I like to ride by myself too, because I don't like to feel like I want to have my own agenda. I get stuck in places. I don't want to like feel like I took somebody to some place that sucked, like I'm responsible for their time.
100%. Yeah.
Like I don't like that.
Yeah.
If I take a wrong turn and it's not that great, then it's only me that hurts from it, and I don't have to feel like I made someone else's day worse.
Yeah.
And I also just like to explore, and sometimes I don't even know what run I'm on. I just like to go, But like, why were you so obsessed with Lorelei?
Because it's the longest, steepest terrain on the entire mountain, and that's it. That's the reason. It's the best area. That entire face, facing the opposite direction of the front side. It's really the steepest stuff. There's other parts of the mountain that have steep terrain, but it's not as long.
Yeah.
And I want a long, steep run in Powder. If I can only get a shorter run, then, I'll settle for that. But I want to go for the best. And if they're going to open it, then I'd love to get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, right here.
Yeah, that area. And so if you go further, up on the page from that area, it's all steep in there. It's very good.
Yes, because we were waiting, we were waiting right here all for like 2 hours, and where are you going to open this thing? We kept asking this to patrol, and they would like ignore us. And they just didn't want it. But they were opening up all this stuff around here. I went over here the next day. I mean, they opened this gate while we were waiting. I think they opened this gate while we were waiting. They opened this gate, which is where I ended up hiking to, and I got some good stuff in there.
Yeah, it's steep in there too.
I ended up going all the way over here the next day, and I rode in here, which is what does that say?
Lift shack shoot.
I went to Twin Trees, got stuck. That was a day after.
It gets a little longer in there. I mean, let me say this, every Powder day is different. Ideally, and a lot of the time on a deep day, they will open the hike stuff before they open the Lorelei Trees area where we were waiting. And so you'll be able to confidently get 1 or 2 runs in there right when it opens, and then go wait for Lorelei, and you get both. This storm was a little unique in that they had some of that stuff open the day before, and it didn't snow that much more that night. So I wasn't as excited to go do the hike first. Like I knew we could probably hike and then come back and still make it. But since it had been open the day before, I just wasn't as excited. Whereas other days where I've been there, I did go take 1 or 2 runs via hike and then go wait for, those gates and got them.
That's the thing that I hate about all of that, is that, first of all, I always feel like I made the wrong decision every fucking time because I got FOMO. Even if I'm like, oh, I took a left at this tree and should have taken a right, I'm like, do you get that?
Rarely.
Okay.
Sometimes I feel like I made the wrong decision, and if I'm at a resort I've never been to, it's more likely to happen. I don't go to too many new resorts these days. I've been to so many. And then on individual runs, I don't really feel that either, because I know the run enough to know where I want to go, where I want to be. Certainly there's parts of runs on plenty of mountains that I just don't know about because I can't know every mountain incredibly well. But I rarely, after I go to a mountain, feel like, I made the wrong decision.
Yeah. Do you think people are normally... There are places where people are not friendly about that information, but there are places... I think most people are pretty friendly about that.
Yeah, most skiers and riders are willing to talk to you about that stuff.
Yeah.
And be pretty honest about it.
Yeah.
And, I am. If I'm at Snowbird and someone asks me, I tell them, anything they want to know.
I love it. Someone came up to me and they're like, I just randomly like, well, we just got here. Where should we go? I'm like, we're going to Baldy, dude. Let's do it. And it was perfect. And they loved it. And I love that.
Yeah, it's funny. I was, getting something to eat at the tram lodge at the lodge at the top of Snowbird at the tram on a deep day, and it wasn't too crowded. And there's these 3 guys just like talking about what they were doing and kind of talking about like, not getting the best conditions. And it was a rabbi with a jacket that said the skiing rabbi on it, and like his kid and this other guy. And I was like, so you guys want like some untracked snow on good terrain? And they're like, yeah. And so I took them up on Baldy, did the hike, and showed them down, and they were just like, this was the best run of my life. Oh my God, like this was amazing.
Yeah.
And I stopped and like, took some pictures and video for them. It was the end of the day. I already gotten plenty of footage and plenty of good turns in. So yeah, it was just random people, showed them Baldy, and they were really happy about it.
I love it. I mean, I don't know why people aren't more like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can see why there's people that like to hide their stashes, but dude, it's so much fun. I like showing things like that. And I got to have this weird thing that happened to me. It was on lift 2, or no, it was on, lift 7. I was a solo rider, and I went to the front of the line, and I'm like, is anybody a single? And the whole freaking line like erupted against me, like, get to the back of the line. Have you ever experienced that?
Yes. Yeah. But I wouldn't think at that lift that people would care about that.
It was the weirdest thing.
It can really vary from mountain to mountain and lift to lift, day to day. I would say most of the time, there wasn't a huge line there, right?
It was a decent line, but it doesn't matter. It's math. You're not losing a seat.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it.
It's stupid. I think, you know what?
Was there a singles line?
No, not really, but there should have been.
Well, if there wasn't a singles line, then 100% you were right.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe the people thought there was a singles line.
You know what I think it was? I was wearing that dorky unicorn mount, and they just like
didn't like that.
I hate that thing, but it's the best. It's the best way to get footage. I know how it looks. I fucking hate it.
I know it's tough. It's tough. I'm just more worried that like hit it on something.
Yeah, I've hit it on things, but I hit more. The selfie pole is more. I've hit that on more things than.
I mean, it is much longer.
Yeah,
I'm just so used to riding with it that it's just like a limb.
Yeah. It takes a minute to get used to, but I kind of want to experiment with the ones that come out of your backpack and go straight up.
Yes.
Except for it's hard to tell if you're going under trees or something like that. I guess it only works on open. It work on Baldy, and like.
And the problem with those that hasn't been solved yet is it wobbles like this in the bag, and so anytime you see footage that people have with those, there's this like little zooming in, zooming out that I just don't like. Like I have one of those, the guy from Utah who makes.
Oh, I didn't know
who
that.
makes them. It's like they're called like the Dream mount or something, and it's a thing you stick in your bag, and then it has an attachment for the pole. It's very well designed and works really well. But I'm just too picky on like if you ever see footage from those, you'll now notice it just zooming in and out the entire time because it's wobbling, because it's just not like so solid.
Yeah.
I hope someone creates a solution for that, because I love the footage outside of the wobbling part of it. But it is hard. I don't know, like, how are you going to set that up? Like in the environments that I'm in most of the time, I'm like hustling around, jumping off a tram, jumping off a lift. How am I going to set that up in my bag? I don't know. Yeah,
I know. I mean, and I have so much footage. I didn't edit any of my footage from Taos. If you don't do it the same day, it's never gonna happen, right?
Yeah, I don't go back and edit footage later.
No, you gotta do it that same day because you kind of forget what happens and everything.
Yeah, and then it's like going through a lot of footage and you don't know where the best stuff is. It takes too much time. I don't want to spend a lot of time editing, and I don't. I do it like really quickly right away. Sometimes in the lift line while I'm waiting after a run.
Oh, really? Yeah, the Insta360 app is, I think, better than the GoPro app for that.
That's what I heard. I never actually tried the 360 editing in GoPro, but that's ultimately why I bought the Insta360 first, because someone told me the editing was easier.
It is easier. The reason I got the GoPro is because the microphone's a lot better, like out of the box. Because Insta360 has another microphone attachment now that I think is going to be really good. That's actually keeps it waterproof. Because the problem with it was it make it unwaterproof if you put the good microphone on it. But I think they fixed that, and then I think they fixed that. Because what I want to do is I make these resort walkthroughs. So I just go through and just 2.5 hours straight, one cut, till my battery runs out. And then I switch it up, and then just 2.5 hours straight of just uncut footage. I go on the chairlift. Try to go by myself, just kind of like ASMR stuff where people can just be on the mountain with, and I don't talk at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was just about to ask if you are explaining what you're doing and where you're going.
Sometimes I'll talk a little bit, but I don't really like to talk on. I'm not very interesting,
Yeah, I don't want to hear my voice, as I told you.
Yeah,
as I'm on a podcast.
I mean, did you ever think you'd be like an Instagram?
No. I was about ready to delete all social media before I started, doing some stuff for other websites.
Really?
Yeah, I was kind of done with it and didn't spend a lot of time on it. Didn't want to.
Yeah, so this is one of the things I did at Snow Basin. Walk through the lodge.
Thanks, man.
Just kind of be a fly on the wall for it. Oh, I could probably do this. See, just somebody wants to be on the lift with me, just it's kind of nice, right?
Are you going to tell them, hey, don't talk because I'm filming this?
Well, I always have a weird thing with people that are on the lift with me and I'm filming. Should I tell them I'm filming or not?
No.
I don't think I should.
No, they should just assume that it's possible if you have a camera.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
I like the sounds, though. The ASMR type thing. You just get to hear the sounds of the mountain.
Right?
I'm just hearing it now, and I like that.
Isn't it nice? I've only done one, but I like this one a lot.
Snow Basin's a good place to do it, too, with their facilities.
Yeah.
And the views.
It was almost the same in February.
Right?
It is kind of peaceful.
Oh, I know, yeah. It's not too June weather.
Sometimes I'll talk to people, but and then I actually did this thing too where I played around with I forget what it's called. It's
Do you have a Garmin?
It actually, this is just data from the GoPro, and then there's
interesting.
This app that you can buy that's called Telemetric Pro or something like that, and it does all the telemetry, the altitude, and then this map with everything and the speed, and it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm a data person. Obviously, I'm a scientist, and I've analyzed a lot of data. I had to dig into a lot of data, whether it's historical weather data or my own data. But I like all that. I record all of my ski days on a tracking app, and I use that to review where I went. Maybe I finish a run and I'm like, oh, I thought this was going to be the spot that I wanted to, but it turns out it wasn't. It was the trees were tighter, or it was less steep. Then I go back and I load my track into a topographical app with pitch, steepness, slope, angle, and I look and say, oh, the reason it didn't quite work out was because I was a little too far to the left or to the right. Or maybe I go to a resort, 6 years ago, and I might have some notes, I might remember, but maybe I'm well, where did I go, for the third run off that lift? And I can go back and say, oh, this was where I went that day on a 20-inch powder day, and it helps, get to the right spots.
Yeah.
And so, I spend a lot of time looking at topographical maps with slope angle when I'm especially going to a new resort, but going to a resort maybe I'm not as comfortable with. You know, if I'm going to a new resort, that's how I plan my day. I'll look at where the lifts are on a topographical map and where the steep stuff is and figure out, okay, like that's where I want to be. That will probably open based on, you know, it's not too steep.
So that would be cool as another addition to this whole thing is like, this is a freaking awesome day, by the way.
Yeah, that looks great.
And I did the hike. Oh, this guy was talking a lot. Yeah, the first big storm after a while, it was just people. I don't know. It's just like fly on the wall stuff, you know?
Nice.
But actually, I wanted to show you this
When
one.
was that?
This was
2022?
Yeah. And I didn't even, this is just I didn't plan this at all. It just happened to be a fucking perfect day. This guy, I was bugging this guy a little bit, hiking up.
Snow Basin's great.
I love Snow Basin.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
He was from Philadelphia. But he couldn't breathe, and I kept asking him questions. And he's like, shut up, kid.
Don't talk to me while I'm hiking.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it does look nice.
This was actually a really good run.
Yeah, I've had some good ones at Snow Basin.
Yeah, actually, I want to watch this again. I love going back and watching the good stuff, you know? Especially when it's like, look at that bomb hole.
I know.
Oh, it just gives me chills. Look how perfect that is.
That is really nice. Some solid debris there.
This was seriously one of my best days of
Yeah, it really looks like a perfect sunny POW day.
So anyway, I was showing you that because that's why I bought the GoPro, because it has great microphone. And but this took me getting all this stuff, all the data. It's just such a pain in the ass, but it's cool. But it takes a long time. But I do like. I think is I have ADD, so I can't do it all the time. It's like hard for me to concentrate on it, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want to talk about your.
Look, some more surprises.
Shut up.
Oh, look.
See, that's why I don't talk.
You know, that's fine. You're the only one that, doesn't like hearing that. That seemed funny to me.
Yeah, it was funny, wasn't it?
It was. Well, like I said, I don't want to hear myself.
Yeah, I know.
Other people hear me and they say it's fine. I just don't let me hear it. Like I won't be able to listen to this podcast. You'll just have to tell me how it turned out.
It's turning out great already. But so yeah, I want to talk about your course, man. Like, what's your vision for it? You want to teach people how to chase powder.
Yeah, I want to give people the tools to chase powder like I do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that I can teach, to a basic level that I think will help people do what I do, maybe on smaller scales, but they won't have to rely on other apps or other people. I'm working on the curriculum now and in the process of trying to find out what areas people are lacking in most, what people want to know most. But I envision several sections, one on weather, of course, and I think I'll be I plan to do again, like we talked about earlier on, like a very basic intro to weather and just giving people a few tools and showing them how to interpret a few different, aspects of the weather to make decisions about where to go. And like I said, I think with a basic understanding, you can do a pretty good job of doing that. You don't have to be a degreed meteorologist to do a good job of forecasting and chasing powder. There's certainly advantages that are there because I have that knowledge and I've been doing it for a long time, but it's not, it's not required. So I think there will be a section about weather. There will certainly be a section about interpreting weather data from weather stations and giving people my list of weather stations.
Oh, that's big.
I plan to just hand that over
Ooh.
in full. It's taken me 10 years to find all these. And, there's people, that are sometimes like, hey, can I get that weather station from you? Oh, I saw this one once. I'm like, I have them all organized by state, by resort. There will be certainly sections on traveling, and, how I plan these trips last minute. And that, can range from finding the best deals, being able to cancel certain bookings if you need to, getting the right car with the right tires and how to navigate all of that stuff, which, if you're flying to a destination, it can be really important to have a good car.
I rented a freaking minivan in Taos.
Yeah.
Actually, it was a full-size van with front-wheel drive.
But it was okay there, right?
No, I got stuck in the parking lot and they had to tow me out.
Oh, the parking lot, but the roads were okay.
No, it was fucking terrible. Don't get a fucking full-size van. But that was a mistake I made. I didn't think about that at all, because I normally drive a Jeep. It's like I don't have to think about that. But it was also the only car available. So
I was going to say cars were limited, especially at that time. I don't know why. I wound up, I think I rented, maybe like a mid-size SUV, but they didn't have any mid-size SUVs with all-wheel drive left. So I wound up in, like a higher class car that was more expensive, premium or sort of luxury because it was the only ones with all-wheel drive. And sometimes you wind up in those situations, but there's a lot of small things I do when I'm chasing in terms of what I book, how many cars I book, what sites I book it from, being able to pay later, how I choose the car, how I choose the right tires. It depends on the location hugely. Some drives are not bad. So if you get just a regular all-wheel drive, maybe it has, so-so tires, it's not going to be a big deal. But then there's some places where you really don't want to go there if you don't have an equipped car. So there will be a lot of travel stuff like that, how to try to do stuff cheaply. And then there will be a section on looking at topographical maps and how to look at the topographical map of a resort and figure out where to go, why to go, when to go. Certainly some stuff about mountain ops and how to figure that stuff out, where to go certain days. There's probably more stuff, but that's just some of the things that will be covered in the course in depth. Yeah,
I think it's going to be sick. And, dude, the weather stations, perfect lead gen. You thought about that? You can just get emails from that.
What do you mean exactly?
You know what a lead gen is, right?
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm giving away my super secret stash of weather stations for every state: Utah, Colorado. Just go down the list.
Canada,
Europe,
South America.
Mm-hmm. That's how you get those. That's how you get the emails.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. It's a good call. There's a lot of work put into getting those. A lot of searching, and they change too sometimes. Sometimes the links change, they go bad, and I have to go refind it. But yeah, there's a lot of information there.
Because I think that, the way I see it from the outside, it's so cool because everybody, and let me ask the question that you've been asked, that you can get on the record. How do you powder chase with a real-time job, full-time job, or can you?
Yeah, I currently have a job that's remote, so I can do it from anywhere. And even within that, there's a fair amount of flexibility in terms of what time of day I can do that work. So, on one hand, it's great because I can chase storms and be at the mountain early and do all the waiting I do to get the great runs I get. But, as we've talked about, that results in me having to do all of my work later and late at night and not sleeping very much. So, I wouldn't do it any other way. Having the flexibility to snowboard in as many big storms as I do is amazing. But during the winter, I'm not sleeping much because if I'm snowboarding that day, there's a lot of waiting.
Yeah.
I have to do the work at night.
And I know that, just getting to Taos was so difficult. It's a 2.5 hour drive or something from New Mexico, from Albuquerque. And luckily there's a hotel, and, luckily I had airline miles. So you can have airline miles in your course, right?
Yeah. I would just broadly advise anyone to, if they're able to pay off their bills monthly, to buy everything with a card with miles or points. Yeah. Literally everything. Yeah. Every purchase you can imagine. Because that's what I do too. And I have a lot of miles stacked up. This season I barely paid for any flights, and I flew a lot. Yeah. Because I just had miles. And, like for example, if you have a Delta American Express card and there's a flight for $500, that's the equivalent of 50,000 miles. But if you have the card, you can first get that $500 flight maybe for 45,000 miles. It's a little bit less in miles than if you would buy it in dollars. So you're getting it cheaper there. And then again, if you have a specific type of card, on top of that, they'll give you a 10% discount just for having the card and buying it with miles and get it even cheaper. So there's lots of things like that. And, I'm not the expert on what the best card is for miles or points. I'm sure there's resources out there that tell you what's best depending on what type of, travel or bonuses you want to use. But
yeah, it depends on, because it's like we living in Salt Lake, we have the luxury of having to have Delta Hub. So that's a big deal because Southwest sucks from here, which is what I have. And I have a shitload of Southwest points, but it's like 2 flights everywhere except Denver and Oakland or whatever. But it's like there's no direct flights to most places with Southwest, but there's a lot of direct flights with Delta, and things like that. And I have this other card called the Barclay Rivals Plus, which they don't do anymore, but you can redeem it for any travel expense. So it's like I redeemed my hotel and or an Airbnb and my car rental on it. Yeah. So I actually paid nothing for the Taos flight, and I had the Icon. So it was actually a free trip, basically, just time and like food. That's and I love showing up to a place where you haven't paid anything yet, and then you can have good food. Yeah.
It's nice if you can plan it like that. And, I'm sure a lot of people can, and, don't approach the travel mileage and point stuff as crazy as I do. Like I said, I try to buy everything with that so I can use that. And, if you book a flight with miles, you can cancel it anytime. Yeah. And the miles just go back into your account. There's no restrictions. So that's another benefit. I should probably do some affiliate marketing with Amex or Delta at this point.
No, I can help you.
I'm sitting here like plugging them.
No, that's what Nerd Wallet.
Yeah.
That's how they make all their money.
Yeah.
As you just be another Nerd Wallet for travel points. Yeah. It's easy. I think this is gonna be big, dude. And I'm excited to help you with it if you want any help.
I do. I need a lot of help.
Yeah. I've sold online courses before, and
yeah, because I feel like I have a wealth of information, so much information to give, and that would help so many people. And I do have a a custom forecasting trip planning service that I offer, but the course will make it so you don't need to use that. You can just do it on your own.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, I don't know how to categorize them, but like tips that I use to really get the best conditions at the right time. That it's not specifically weather, it's not specifically mountain ops, it's just like a combination of things, like a couple of examples. Maybe it's like it's early in the season and resorts are just starting to open, and maybe this next storm is going to be the storm that allows X resort to open this great part of their mountain, this great terrain. And maybe most of the season, because it's steep, it gets a lot of bumps, and it's really hard to cover all those bumps even with a big storm. But if you happen to get it when it opens for the first time in the season, you might have like the best run of your life on that one run because you got there for the storm that allowed it to open up for the first time this season. And maybe paying attention to potential resorts you might go to, and kind of like something we talked about earlier, what was closed the day before. Like a lot of the really deep, amazing runs I get is because the part of the mountain didn't open the day before. So instead of just having 6 inches from the night before, it has 20 inches from the 14 that fell during the day as well. So there's a lot of, I don't know how to categorize them, tips like that will be part of the course to really try to get the best deep days.
Yeah, that's the stuff that, that just comes from riding for 20 years, of like realizing like, oh, like there's the rabbi skier guy, he just wasn't doing the right thing. He was there on a good day, but he didn't know how to handle the mountain. And you can figure that out if you just know this one simple trick that resorts hate. It's like, there's probably some terrain out there that hasn't opened yet, and I just got to ask the question to myself and then go find the information, either asking somebody or go to the website, and like just that, knowing that I think is a big deal for people who don't know how to get a run like that. Because it's like, it's not just about being there during the storm, like you're saying. It's like you really got to know where to go and when, and you got to be willing to wait. Like, the whole Taos trip really opened my eyes to what you do. What you actually do is crazy. You're a psychopath.
Yeah. Yes.
But
very true.
And people, they see the clip on Instagram and they want that. And it's like, I can show you how to get it, but be careful what you wish for, because, it is sick. And dude, there's no question. And like, I wish we could have had time to talk about your Switzerland trip. And that's, the whole difference between, U.S. and Europe is just crazy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But, and it was fucking cheaper for you to fly there than it goes to Vail, right?
Yeah.
Go
to Europe. It's cheaper and better.
And the food is great.
Yeah. You won't be able to eat at any restaurants in the U.S. for a month after.
Dude, I know, right? So anyway, I think we should wrap it up, but it's been awesome, man. We'll definitely be in touch about, that whole thing. I think we should film it here. Because you like, do you want to be on camera for this? And
yeah, I will be.
We can film it here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to do. I don't know yet. A combination of recorded footage and live sessions and materials.
Yeah,
those are the three, formats that I'm thinking are possibilities for the course. I think there may be some one-on-one sessions I might offer all of the students, like a certain number of one-on-one sessions, certainly some live Q&As where people can just ask any question. But yeah, need to keep developing that over the next couple weeks. I want to go live with it in June. I think it probably will be limited based on how much information I want to provide in the course.
Yeah.
And how much, you know, like we said, video time will be available. And I don't necessarily think at this point, if there were like 100 people, that I would be able to do what I'm planning to do. So I think at least this first round of the course will probably have a limited number of spots, because it'd just be too hard at this point.
Yeah.
With all that stuff I want to include.
Yeah.
But I want to do it in June.
I mean, because powder chasing starts now, right? I mean, credit card points and just like being mentally prepared, like, you know, don't take vacations in the summer, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
like,
and that's, you know, that's maybe something that doesn't get talked about, but like I put all of my resources into chasing storms in the winter. I don't take summer trips very often, you know. I put it all towards the winter and the storms, and you know, it's obviously fun for me to ride all this powder, but it's also my work too. So it's not just, you know, putting all of my, you know, extra money towards riding powder. It's just, that's, you know, part of my job, so it all goes to that.
Yeah, that's the thing people need to understand too, is like, you know, this is really literally is your job.
Yeah, it's, you know, how do you chase so many storms? I don't know. I'm not doing anything else with the extra money I have.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be obsessed.
Yeah.
You know?
But you also don't have to be, you know, this obsessed to get some great days. You can maybe get a handful of great days and don't have the feeling that you need to get every great day like I do.
Yeah, you know, because that's actually a curse, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I miss plenty of pow days, but
yeah,
you know, everyone has stuff in life that prevents them from doing it, but you know, flexibility at least lets me get a lot of them.
Yeah. No, I was happy. Just the one powder chase at Taos was awesome, and I'm gonna do it more, but I didn't, you know. I'm going to be mentally prepared for it this year now, you know, and like, you know, just like try to go at least a couple more times. And because I love checking out other resorts too, and other towns and stuff.
I mean, that was a unique one too. I mean, the day before would have been a really good day there, like a longer day. I was coming from Utah and, British Columbia.
Yeah.
So I wasn't as concerned about getting there for the first day, and also would have been logistically challenging, maybe still doable, but, you know, there was a lot of waiting for one run that day, but I will say most days, you know, I get more than one run after after waiting for you know 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
But it's not the only time that has happened either.
Yeah. Well, we'll do this again when the course launches, I'm sure we'll do it a couple more times at least coming up on the next season and everything. And
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Dope.
Good.
Well, this episode is brought to you by Powder Addicts, and that sweater is brought to you by Luke's face, which is literally his beard covered in snow, and his goggles and his mustache and everything. So we took that a classic shot, which I couldn't find the exact one, but there's hundreds of them on Instagram of Lucas, his face covered in pow right in the kisser, baby. That's a original Powder Addicts design. So pick up your sweater and support powder chasers.
Yeah,
because
get one of these.
That's Lucas right there, man. Does it fit?
Yeah, it fits great. It's very comfortable too.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wore it a few times when it was cold. Not knowing it was my face.
I told you it was your face.
That's amazing, though. I'm so happy to be on it. I feel honored. I do, really.
You're an
That's
official
amazing.
Powder Addicts athlete. Congratulations.
That's amazing. That's very flattering.
All right, well, that's it.
All right.
Today's episode of Pillowtalk is brought to you by Powder Addicts. Powder Addicts sells cool shit like this, a matching hoodie and jogger set. But it's not that cool because I'm sweating. Head to powderaddicts.com/pillowtalk for the latest coupon for our listeners.